This is Poindexta, and this year marks the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, one of the most popular and fascinating sci-fi shows of all time. And it seems fitting that among the many franchise-wide celebrations going on, a new movie should be released, honouring the legacy and spirit of its many predecessors, whilst still remaining its own unique thing. And that movie, of course, is Star Trek Beyond. Now, this is technically the third film in an ongoing Star Trek cinematic trilogy that acts as a sort of origin story for Kirk, Spock and the rest of the original Enterprise crew, focusing on how they managed to overcome their initial differences and personal struggles in order to become the unbreakable band of companions we all know and love. And while I have vague memories of watching The Next Generation on TV as a kid, I think the first time I was fully engaged with Star Trek was through the 2009 movie, which was an incredible cinematic experience with a good story, great action and effects, and an overwhelming love for its source material and fan base. Its 2013 follow-up, Star Trek Into Darkness, was also very entertaining for the most part, although the multiple references to both the original show and fan favourite movie The Wrath of Khan were obvious and cliched at best, and embarrassingly try-hard at worst. I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch's Khan? Really? Well, that's enough wasted time on the sins of the past. Let us look ahead to the future and discover just how Star Trek Beyond fits within this iconic universe and manages to take the franchise to brave new worlds. 3 years into the 5-year mission of the USS Enterprise, the same time frame of the original series, an attempted rescue mission goes horribly wrong as the crew find themselves ambushed by an unknown alien fleet. When their ship gets torn apart during the ensuing conflict, the team are forced to crash land on a mysterious planet with little to no knowledge of where they are or why they're being attacked. However, it's not too long before they encounter both the formidable Krall, leader of the 5th alien army holding the surviving crew members hostage, and the rebellious Jailer, a self-reliant scavenger who immediately joins forces with our heroes while seeking revenge against Krall for her family's murder. Stranded on this uncharted world, Kirk, Spock, Uhura, and the rest of the Enterprise are forced to conquer a hostile wilderness in order to overcome their most powerful enemy yet. But with their ship destroyed and Krall threatening to carry out his nefarious plans a little closer to home, can the crew find a way to escape the planet and head back on course? And will they have enough time to save humanity once more? Star Trek Beyond is the first of these new films not to be directed by J.J. Abrams, who, as we all know, was a little busy doing a new movie for another famous sci-fi franchise. And so the torch has been passed on to Justin Lin, director of the more recent Fast and Furious movies. And it shows, but not necessarily in a bad way. Lin knows how to direct high-speed action and make it look good, and this is evident throughout the movie, as it's definitely some of the most impressive and visually effective special effects and action sequences compared to the last two Star Trek films. Most notable is the scene where we're introduced to the Starbase Yorktown, a massive space station that basically looks like a gigantic metropolitan utopia, and combines on-set footage from Dubai with this rich, heavily detailed amount of CGI, and it is absolutely breathtaking. The cinematography is also really amazing, and whoever was in charge of that clearly upped their game from Into Darkness, which, from what I recall, was doing that awkward, lazy, post-Christopher Nolan thing of increasing the contrast so that everything looks darker, or having the main colours consist of just red and blue. Star Trek Beyond, on the other hand, is a surprisingly colourful movie. Even though most of it either takes place on board a starship's control room or on this isolated planet in the middle of nowhere, you really get to see every hue of colour in the surroundings. From the beautiful natural earth tones of the planet they're trapped on, to the subtle shades of white and silver on board the Enterprise, and this really helps make the characters stand out more on screen. And when the aliens first attack and the emergency beacons start flashing red all over the ship, it genuinely feels really tense because all the colours have been stripped away. And it's like you're also undergoing the same experience of being trapped in this frightening situation with the characters on screen. And it's little moments like this where the contrast really works to increase the movie's atmosphere. This is something that most film directors, or the very least directors of Hollywood blockbusters, should take into consideration in order to actually immerse their audience into the story that they're trying to tell, instead of just flashing bright lights in their faces because it looks cool. But fortunately, Justin Lin manages to succeed in making his visual effects both visual and effective. The plot has also vastly improved, probably because it's no longer trying to be a Kirk and Spock origin story or follow the exact same beats of its source material. Now that they've finally gotten the setup out of the way and established all the character dynamics, there's more room to create a brand new adventure for this particular Star Trek crew. But what makes this story interesting compared to previous Star Trek movies is how isolated it is, with most of it taking place in one specific world for a long period of time, instead of just going back and forth between different ships and planets. And because all of the action and excitement has been stripped away for the most part, this movie gives a lot more time into developing the relationships between characters who we've never properly seen interact with each other until now. Kirk and Chekhov go searching for the surviving crew members. Sulu and Uhura try to escape from being held hostage by Krau. Scotty meets Jayla for the first time in a very entertaining introductory scene. And the biggest highlight of all has to be the scenes featuring Spock and Bones together, two complete opposites stranded in the wilderness who have to rely on each other for survival. One is a calm and logical Vulcan, the other is a very cynical and easily agitated human being. So as you can probably imagine, hilarity ensues. And a lot of what makes all of this so entertaining is thanks to the script being co-written by Scotty's actor, Simon Pegg. And if you're familiar with any of Pegg's work, then you would know that the comedy in this film is absolutely brilliant, and you'll definitely be laughing out loud at least once. Story-wise, Star Trek Beyond is this crew's equivalent to, say, something like, I don't know, Star Trek First Contact for the Next Generation crew, because of how much it truly focuses on the characters. Amidst all the bright lights and flashy action sequences, there is a lot of subtle character depth. We see Kirk question his motivations for joining the Enterprise and consider even giving up being captain. We see Spock feeling conflicted between his relationship with Uhura and his loyalty to the Vulcans. And yet none of this is really the main focus of the movie. Instead, we get to experience how this sudden catastrophe affects everyone and forces them to realise their own sense of self. And the character development over the course of events is actually very realistic in how restrained it is, and I was really impressed by this strong storytelling approach. The actors in this film are great. Idris Elba's Krau is just as badass as you'd expect an Idris Elba character to be, and while he may seem like a one-dimensional villain at first, we learn something very interesting, albeit very spoilery, about him later on, which completely changes the audience's perspective of him all around. Jayla is played by Algerian dancer and actress Sophia Boutella, whose biggest breakout was playing the villainous Gazelle way back in Kingsman: The Secret Service, and is due to star alongside Tom Cruise in the upcoming remake of The Mummy. She gives a rather nonchalant yet lively on-screen performance, and she really holds her own among the rest of the established cast members. I only wish that we could have seen just a little bit more of her character, but then again I can't help but wonder that if Jayla had too much screen time, then it would have been too distracting from the main focus of the story, which was, of course, on the crew of the Enterprise. But yeah, the cast is wonderful as always. Everyone seems to be having a whale of time making this movie. And speaking of the cast, it would be a little hard for me to do this video without, of course, talking about the sad passing of both Leonard Nimoy and Anthony Yelchin, the latter of whom died just a month before this movie's release at such a tragically young age. Anton always lit up the screen whenever he played Chekhov and gave so much energy and enthusiasm into his performance. What could have been an unforgettable minor part was made so much better and more enjoyable thanks to his on-screen presence. And while I'm not too familiar with his work outside of Star Trek, he seemed like a very kind human being, and it still saddens me to think about how such a special, talented person was gone too soon. And Nimoy's portrayal of Spock was also one of the best things about the original series, and the iconic nature of his role resulted in him even making a few cameos in the recent films. And while he doesn't reprise the older version of Spock in this movie, there is a very brief tribute of him earlier on. I won't give away what it is, but what I can tell you is that it's a beautiful combination of bleak and bittersweet, and helps to serve the movie's understated theme of legacy. Star Trek Beyond is the perfect movie to commemorate the franchise's 50th anniversary. It's an epic sci-fi adventure that not only honours the series' roots, but also manages to display fast-paced blockbuster action with brilliant visuals and technicality. Everything that makes a Star Trek film great is present and accounted for here. The action and adventure, the humour, the conflict, the chemistry between the characters, the memorable scenes and dialogue, not to mention the underlying notion that darkness and injustice will always be conquered through reason and unity. The sincerity of the story being told perfectly aligns with Gene Roddenberry's original vision, namely that we as humanity can evolve beyond struggle and strive for something better. Justin Lin really hits it out of the park as director. Simon Pegg's script is very entertaining and well thought out, and all of the cast members manage to deliver fantastic performances while continuing to bring a sense of vibrancy and stand out among an already enormous fictional universe. In short, Star Trek Beyond is probably the strongest of the current Star Trek movies, as it feels more like an original story for a newer generation. It's fun, it's exciting, it's human, and it's absolutely worth checking out. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and comment on this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and follow me on all appropriate social media sites. Look out for my next vlog in a few days' time, where I'll be reviewing the latest book from Sex and the City author Candace Bushnell, Killing Monica. But until then, this is Poindexta. Live long and prosper.